Hey guys, Lucky here, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys my draft analysis for my team I drafted for Season 7 of the WPF. This season in the WPF, we are doing a Galar Dex only draft after Crown Tundra, so there's a lot of Pokemon there, but we are also including Megas that have their base form in the game, which is kind of a unique format, I think, and I'm really excited to get into that. Now, when going through this draft analysis, most of you have been around Pokemon and Draft League enough that you know kind of what each mon does. So rather than going through and saying exactly what each Pokemon, like what moves it gets, what it does as a Pokemon like by itself, what I'm going to try to do is talk through a little bit of what it gets, but then what it does for the team as a whole. It's going to be kind of showing you the process I go through in building my teams and kind of um, making out a finished product. So as I'm talking through some of these, I'll be maybe not with the first couple, but as I go through, I'll be kind of keeping the finished product in mind, not just the start of it. So with that being said, I'll get into it. In this draft, I had the fifth pick overall. Not the best pick, not the worst pick. It's fairly close to the wheel, not as close as I'd like to be, but it is earlier to the beginning, which is good, which means first take around I could get something pretty good. And originally I had two mons in mind that I was thinking I could build a team around, and that was Tornadus T and Tabu Fini. Now, unfortunately, Tornadus T was taken second pick overall before I could grab it, and while Tapu Fini was still there, somehow at the fifth pick, Tapococo was there. And I love Tapococo. I think it's one of the best mods in the format, even with the slight terrain nerf that it only boosts electric attacks 1.3 now. And it didn't get play rough or close combat, which we thought it would from the leaks, but it's probably a good thing it didn't because if it did get those moves, it'd probably be banned and I wouldn't have had a chance to draft it. Um, it's just super versatile. You can basically build any team you want around it right off the bat. Fast speed, good pivoting. It does get defogs, so although there is a change this gen that it defogs away the terrain, so might not want to use that, but it's an option if needed. But it's you can't go wrong with Tapococo when building out the rest of the team, and it makes team building super easy. It doesn't need much support. In fact, it does better at supporting the rest of the team as a whole. So, pick 2 comes around to me, and Garchomp still available. So already we've got a start to a really strong Fairy Dragon Steel core, a very offensive one. Although Garchomp still has the bulk to take hits pretty well, it doesn't worry about Coco's electric terrain boosting the other team's electric moves because it's immune. With hidden powers not in this game, the 4 times ice weakness is not a problem at all, and most electric types don't really have much to hit Garchomp now, so whereas in past gens you would be worried about switching in on a Volt Switch to block that because they could project and hit hidden power, now you don't have to. Um, and even though its physical attack is higher, Coco's usually used more as a special attacker, and Garchomp is a great physical attacker, and it's just a great way to start this draft off. It's got even better in Gen 8 with the inclusion of Scale Shot, so I can go ahead and click that move and boost my speed, which I don't think Garchomp had a speed boosting move prior. So if you include that with Swords Dance, it can get carried away pretty fast. Yeah, so next pick I needed some bulk for the team. I wanted to make sure to have something again that would overall support the team. Could take ice hits for Garchomp. He doesn't really care that much about ground hits that were coming for Coco, and that is Suicune, which is probably my second favorite water type in draft format. My favorite's Fini, but with Coco, I wasn't going to grab a second fairy, even though it was still there. And Suicune is just, it has great stats. It's super bulky, obviously. It can go either especially or physically bulky. But the thing I really like is it, as a wall, it still has decent speed and okay special attack, and the ability to set up with Calm Mind, and it's not just a passive wall that'll just sit there. I really don't like passive walls at all. I want to make sure they're able to do some damage, um, or do something rather than just sit there. But there's a lot of cool things Suicune can do for the team, and overall, I'm just really happy to have it, and I think it fits well with the first couple of picks. So, going into the next round, at this point, I'm kind of figuring out where I'm going to go with the team. And so, in this round, I ended up picking Venusaur. Now, everyone knows Venusaur for being a good Sun Sweeper, obviously, but outside of Sun, it's still just a really good bulky grass. I mean, 80, 83, 100 defenses are pretty good. It gets Leech Seed, it gets Synthesis, so reliable recovery. It pairs well with Coco, being able to take the poison moves, and obviously starting a Fire, Water, Grass with Suicune. It's overall very good for the team, both in and outside of Sun, which I may or may not be getting later. Pick the next pick I picked. There's, I wanted to get something that will. I was noticing I didn't really have any priority yet, and I also wanted something that will offer good support to the team that I will be building as it comes further along, and that is Hitmontop. Hitmontop is, I've wanted to use it a couple times in draft, but usually it goes before I draft it. And it's like, oh, I really wanted that. So this time I wanted to make sure to get it early. And yeah, it just offers really good support to the team. It gets rapid spin to spin away hazards. That way Coco, before this, Coco was my only remover, so I wanted that. It's Intimidate is nice, and it's a good bulky pivot, and it gets a whole bunch of priority, which I didn't have before this. So, and in addition to Intimidate, it gets Technician, and this gen it gets Triple Axle, which Technician, Triple Axle, if all three hit, it's, I don't know the exact count, but it's pretty powerful, I know. So that's a pretty cool. Yeah, so the next pick, there it is. I got my Sun. I had thought about this way back when I picked Venusaur because, first of all, at this point, a lot of people already picked their Megas. Second of all, for some reason, Mega Charizard Y was Mega Tier 2. This gave me 43 points to, a little bit of spoilers here, I'm going to pick up a third Tier 1 later. And the only way I could do that is if I picked a lower tier Mega. Well, quite frankly, I don't think Charizard Y should be a lower tier Mega. I think it is Mega Tier 1, so getting an extra Tier 1 and being able to get Mega Charizard Y, that just seemed like a no-brainer to me. Obviously, the Venusaur pick pairs well with this. I know I don't get 8 turns of Sun because Charizard Y can't get an item, but that's fine. I don't necessarily need that much, and Venusaur still good outside of the Sun. I probably would have picked this later, except I talked with one of the mods, and I was told that I was not allowed to go over, even though I would have been under 400 points if I'd picked my third tier 1 earlier. Technically, until I picked the Mega, I would have been in risk of going over and breaking the limit. So I was told I had to pick my lower tier Mega first. That wasn't necessarily enforced later on in the draft, which is fine. The only unfortunate thing is there was one Mon I was sniped of that I really would have liked. Um, because I probably would have drafted it around earlier than I did if I could have waited for my Mega till later, because I was pretty sure no one was going to take this, and there were only like 3 of us left by the time I took it that didn't have a Mega, and one of them had Sand, so I wasn't going to take it, and the other one it just didn't seem like it fit their team. But either way, I'm still happy with it. It pairs well with Venusaur, obviously, and just in addition to Garchomp's super powerful physical breaker, Mega Charizard Y is a super powerful special breaker. So it's it's going to be pretty hard to switch into this team. Um, so as I alluded to earlier, my next pick is going to be my third tier one, which is Corvo Knight. And I'm saying, well, Corvo Knight in the sun, oh, fire types are going to hit harder. Well, I'm not hopefully going to stay on a fire type move anyways, and no matter what steel type I get, it'll be weak to fire. So that's not really a big issue. But just look at that Fairy Dragon Steel core. I'd like people to try to find the better one than um, Tapococo, Garchomp, and Corvo Knight. They just pair really well together. Garchomp and Corvo Knight in general pair really well. So Gar- uh, Garchomp especially is nice for Corvo Knight because Corvo Knight's 2 weaknesses are fire and electric, which Garchomp is immune to the electric and resists the fire moves. Um, Garchomp's weak to fairy, which obviously Corvo Knight doesn't care about. Um, it can take ice hits pretty well because of its bulk. It's got amazing bulk and overall good stats. It also gets defog, which is something I really wanted to help out that make a Charizard Y. So now I have um, a solid Rapid Spinner and Hitmontop, a solid defogger in Corvo Knight, and a defogger I can use in a pinch in Tapococo. So that's really helping to support that a Charizard Y. So, overall, the team is coming together pretty well. Now, I know with this, my team is pretty top heavy. I'm going to have to pick 3 tier 5s as my free picks. And I knew that going in. There's one time in the past where I had tried this, um, but when I did in the past, and I didn't necessarily like it, but in the past when I had done this top heavy and lots of tier 5s for my free picks, the tier 5s ended up being like Lantern was one of them, and I think it was my only water at the time. So a couple like very important aspects to the team were lower tier mons, and also I remember that draft the third tier one I took was Superior, which is not the best for tier one, and so it just felt a little lacking. But this one, when I have such a powerful top heavy team, I mean, Corviknight's Knight's a top mon in the format, Coco's a top mon in the format, and Garchomp's a top mon. Like when those 3 are carrying your team, fine, whatever. And I don't even have to really sacrifice my mega slot because I think Charizard Y is just that good. So I had a plan for tier 5s. Basically, my thing was if they need to support the team well and they need to be usable. I'm not necessarily going to bring them all that much, but I just want to make sure that they're not just going to sit on the bench the whole time. The one I really wanted was Cryogonal, which was unfortunately taken. And this was the one mon where I had said earlier that, man, if I had been able to keep my Mega towards the end, push it up around earlier, you better believe that Snowflake would have been on my team. Unfortunately, it wasn't, so that's kind of a bummer, but we'll make do. So the first tier 5 I took was one that I was surprised was there, and that in tier 5, and that was Spiritomb. I know for a fact Spiritomb is going to come to games. Um, it's pretty bulky. It can also hit okay, decently hard. It gets Sucker Punch. I don't know if it gets Shadow Sneak or not, but I know it gets some priority, so that's good. Its only weakness is a fairy. And it's slow, which I always have a problem with not drafting a mon that's could help in Truck Room if needed. So um, that's good to have. Like I said, know it's going to be coming to. I know I'll be able to bring it, and it'll actually have a part to play in the team, which That was basically my goal with my tier 5s. So the next tier 5 I took was Kangaskhan. Now, the main reason I took Kangaskhan was one, for Wish, and two, because it's a normal type. And I know there's some pretty powerful ghost types running around, so having that normal type to potentially be immune to them is nice. Kangaskhan is really cool with Hitmontop and Spiritomb because both of them have low HP, good bulk, and no reliable recovery. So now it's a lower tier, it's a pretty budget wall core. But I do have other walls on the team, so it's not just those three I'm relying on. But the Hitmontop, um, Spiritomb, and Kangaskhan make a decent little low tier wall core that I know can be useful coming into the team. And I mean, that's one thing I think about when I'm going through these teams and building is I always think, oh, what are these little cores that can kind of piece together and work well together? And then from that, you can build through the rest of the team. And that's not always typing. Like, I mean, yes, you've got your fire, water, grass, your fairy, steel, dragon, but there's some other like there's some other typings too that aren't necessarily just by typing. They're just okay. These Pokemon work well together, and that's what we got to think of. I mean, you can have ones that probably my favorite defensive core I've ever drafted is, or one of my favorite cores I've ever drafted was Zapdos, Tapu Fini, and um, Nidoqueen, which they all are pretty bulky. They pair together with their weaknesses. They cover each other, but it doesn't follow in a typical um, one of the typical type cores. That's fine. I've also drafted a Fairy Dragon Steel core that didn't really fit together. When going through the draft, I kind of try to look at it as a whole and then say, hey, does this fit? And I think Kangaskhan fits the team excellent. So second to last pick, coming back up, there was him on my tier 3. I knew which one I was taking and I really wanted, and I would have been upset if I didn't get it, but I knew that the people picks 1 through 4, none of them could afford it. So I was okay, I'm safe for this. I'm just going to take a tier 5, my last tier 5 that I need first. And that is Claytol, which it's pretty cool. It's with teleport this gen. It means it's even with its low attacking stats. It's not just a sitting duck there. It's got good bulk. The thing I really like, and it helps out a lot with the team, is that it gives me a fighting resist, but more importantly, it gives me another rapid spinner and another stealth rocker. Up to this point, Garchomp was my only form of hazards, and that's not the best to do. And Claytol also works well with Kangaskhan because its one issue is that one of its issues is that it doesn't get reliable recovery. Well, I could pass wishes to it, and again, it's got high defenses and a somewhat low HP value. So, with Kangaskhan's high HP value, I can heal up a whole lot of health with that, which will be good for the team. And I know Claytol will also have some use to the team. Like I said, it won't come every week, but it's a tier 5 that's useful, and that's basically what I was looking for with my tier 5s with being so top heavy. Is again, maybe I bring 4 or 5 of my top mods and just throw a low tier 1 on every once in a while. But yeah, this also completes my Psychic Dark Fighting core, very low tier 1, but it works. It's not one of the main cores, but it'll do. And then the last pick that is my tier 3 that kind of rounds out the team is mascot pick. We got Lycanroc Day, which is probably one of I really like it in draft format. It's got really good speed, decent attack. It filled a lot of holes at the end that this team is missing. It filled a nice speed gap between Tapococo and Garchomp. So instead of going all the way from 130 to 102, and now that's 112s in the middle, which is nice. It gives me more priority and a strong stab priority at that with Excel Rock, and also get Sucker Punch if I need that. And it gives me a third rocker besides Claytol and Garchomp. So it helps the team out a lot, I think, and I really wanted to make sure to get it. Um, and so yeah, that's the team. I really enjoy it. I'm really gonna have fun with it. It's kind of a joke that I've been known to draft rain teams a lot, so drafting a little bit of a sun aspect is gonna be fun to go with, and yeah, I'm looking forward to trying out this team. So let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys later.